play. So we get a concert here of about 13 or 14 songs that we see Matsumoto play on the right, and he plays like Larry used to. And then we get to see Larry on the left, and he plays like Larry does now, and it's just disappointing. It's not comparable to Mr. Matsumoto. Why? Why do they stand so far apart and barely look at each other? They do not look at each other when they play. These guys, to me, are angry. Now, it is true that in Japan, you would not touch somebody. That's out of... You don't touch somebody to show them you like them. You would bow. That's how you express your affection, which you don't do. You express your respect. So you bow. But you don't go over and put your arm around them and say, hey, that's just impossible. You don't do that in Japan. But Larry is giving this guy too much respect. Why is the band Larry's band? Okay, well, it's Larry's thing with maybe Tak Matsumoto guesting. But I don't think that there's any reason for that. I think Tak is just as big a star in Japan as Larry is. But think what that does, though. That gives Larry control over the entire evening because the band only understands English. So Larry can speak to the band and Tak cannot. What does that tell you? Okay. So we got Larry being the one in charge of the band. Now, I looked at the credits on the CD. Produced by Larry Carlton and Tak Matsumoto. Okay, why does Larry get top billing? I don't know. Executive producers, Vermillion. That's somebody that works with Larry. B. Maxey. I don't know who that would be. That's probably somebody with Tak. And Robert Williams is the executive producer, and he's Larry's manager. All right. Larry's manager is Robert Williams. Tax management. He's got 4 guys. 4 managers. Now but none of those are B. Maxey or whatever. Okay, so Larry's guitar tech is listed first, Rick Wheeler. Tak's guitar tech is Katsunori Hataketayama. And it's manufactured by 335 Records, which is Larry's record company. And by Robert Williams, which is Larry's manager. By Glenn, that's me. Blackman, I don't know who that is. And Toby Thompson, I don't know who that is. On each song, Tak shows that he is just a great guitar player. He's got all the licks, all the tricks, all the speed, and he shows that he's a legit contender, okay? He can play that guitar. Larry shows that he's used to be, or you might also say maybe a has-been, maybe a wash-up. Does he play badly? No. Larry can't play badly. But he just plays stuff that a beginning guitar player learns by 3rd year. And it's just stuff, there's some ways to explain it. If anybody here plays the guitar, if there's anybody here. And let's say if he plays a 5-note run, da-da-dee-da-da, you'll look at least 3 of the notes he's played twice. So it's the same note once, a different note, and the next note he plays twice. So he plays 5 notes, but really just 3. That's one of the ways that you reduce the amount of manual dexterity it takes to play a guitar solo. I listened to the guitar solo in one of his really classic pieces that he recorded twice, once before he was injured and once after he was injured. And that's called Nightcrawler. Well, Nightcrawler 2010 is the one that he does on stage because that's the one, it's 2010 in that year. So he's doing a new version of a classic that is recorded at half speed. In other words, where he formerly would do a solo with what would be 16th notes, and in Larry's case, I believe there were probably, I don't remember the song that well, but I think there were probably 32nd notes. Those 16 notes are now eighth notes. So they take twice as long, and they're half as many notes, and that's how Larry plays his section on that song, along with Tak. They do a Tak song called Islands of Japan, and in it you hear Tak. Now he's taken the blinders off. So the first one, you really get the feeling he was holding back to not show up Larry. But in this second cut, he does the soloing, and then Larry does some noodling, and then Tak does some incredible technique soloing, and Larry then does some noodling, and that's how the rest of the album goes. Okay, so then why is the band all Occidental? That's an old-fashioned term for white. Why do they not speak Japanese? Why do Larry and Tak stand at opposite ends of the stage, not anywhere near each other? The only time they touch each other, and it looks very uncomfortable, is Larry forces them to come out and put their arms around each other and bow. And if you're Japanese, you don't do that. You bow, but you don't put your arms around each other because you don't touch each other. And Larry forces him into it, and Tak uncomfortably does it. But to me, this is just a classic. On the right, you got a guy who could really rip, especially if they told him, don't hold back, don't show respect for Larry, just wail. And you got a guy on the left who just can't do it anymore. Larry should have, when he was shot, he was actually, in his career, he was a producer. And he was producing an album by the woman who eventually became his wife. And maybe Larry should have stuck to producing. That would have just done it. And if Larry had stuck to producing, we'd never know. Possibly the shots affected his hearing. So maybe that's why he did not do it. But possibly the shots affected his hearing. I think this album just stinks. I think it's really a missed opportunity. It gets to where I almost cringe when it comes time for Larry's solos. Larry's solos ain't going any more than 3 frets. Whatever he starts on, he's playing down there in, first pentatonic scale. That's where the first solo comes from. And then if there's another 8 bars of the solo, it's just going up there, 12 frets. He's going to do the same solo, but he just does not have it anymore. Yes, he's way better than I am. I will never be able to play as well as he does now. That's absolutely true. But I'm not comparing him to me or to you. I'm comparing him to Larry at the Baked Potato, who I'd seen so many times and just loved. And I don't think I ever missed a show. The only show I ever missed was the one where I got off work, dashed down the Ventura Freeway, got there, got in line. Oh my God, it's 6:45. Oh no, they start letting them in. It's 10 to 7. They opened the door, they started letting them in. Okay, we got a ticket. Yeah, 20 here. Yep. And I get up there and the band starts the first note of Upper Kern. Do 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 do, and it sounded wonderful. Dude. And I get up there and they go, that's it. That was the last ticket. There's no more room. And I don't, I know everybody fights when you do that, but I don't fight. If they tell me it's their choice. So, and I went home. That's the only time I've ever missed Larry. So, anyway, that's my spiel on the Wasted. Oh, there is one very important point. I have heard some playing lately by Larry. Now, we're talking lately is 2022 and 2021. And it was stupendous. I'm sorry I did not write down what it was. I don't know what it was. Now, I did also hear the Paris concert, and that's very, very good. So there is a chance, and maybe I should have looked into this before I did this rap. Maybe he's taken those 10 years since 2010, or maybe this was filmed in 2009, 2010, when they played the Blue Note. And maybe he's spent 10 years just getting better and better. And you really, what you have to do that, I hate to say this, is you have to take lessons. And you pay an expert guitar teacher to come in and give you lessons and work you and say, you're not working hard enough. You've got to bend that note, okay? You can't just hold it. You've got to bend it. And you take lessons and you sign that teacher to a non-disclosure agreement so that nobody knows that you take guitar lessons. That's exactly what George Martin didn't do and what he and Brian Epstein should have done for the Beatles. They'd have been a much better band, but they should have had the whole time they were inside. They were on EMI and recording in the studios there. They should have had them every day taking a guitar lesson, especially George. And maybe, I don't know, maybe vocal lessons. A lot of people say they could not sing in the studio. So. Anyway, but I did hear something. The Paris concert is really good. There is rumor on the interwebs, or whatever it's called, that is a sweetened track, that nobody can play all that. That sounds like two guitars, and it's supposed to be just Larry. Nobody can do that. That's really two guitars, one maybe the live track, and one added later as it's called sweetening the track. So that's how you get it to sound just as stupendous as it does. But I want to say the Paris concert is really good. I have not listened to enough of it to say, and the fire is back, because it's not that kind of music. But the playing, where he just plays songs, is really beautiful and really good. And I've already downloaded that, so I've done what I can do. I sure wish Larry would get on the surround sound and come back and give us all of his albums in surround, or at least his biggest hit ones. Give us the album Smiles and Smiles to Go, or more than a Discovery, whatever it is that album's called, that was his first album. I have another funny story about that. Larry's biggest album I think it's his biggest album ever, but it was in the smooth jazz category, and it was his album with Smiles and Smiles to Go, his first album of acoustic guitar music. Up till then, every note you heard from Larry was an electric guitar, usually a 335. That's why he's called a Mr. 335. Or, sometimes it would have been a Telecaster. Many times it would have been a Stratocaster. And that's what he played. And so all of a sudden, rumors going around, he's going to make an album, a whole album of acoustic music. And so one night I'm sitting there drowning my sorrows with Charlie Lico. Toast Charlie Lico. Charlie Lico was Larry's manager at that time. So Charlie and I were sitting there and we're talking, and I said, Charlie, this is a mistake, man. This thing's going to end his career. Larry's genius, and I do believe he had genius. That's not a joke. Larry's genius is his bending notes and all the things he does on an electric guitar. You can't do those on an acoustic guitar. They don't have that sustain. And you can't bend the notes like that on an acoustic. This is a mistake. You're going to make Larry's first failure album, okay? Please don't. Charlie, just make him a nice electric album, and I'll buy it and everybody else will. But I said, this is a big mistake. So Charlie said to me, nobody could do to an acoustic guitar what Larry can do. And he said, when you hear it, you'll understand what I'm saying. So I said, well, I don't believe that, but okay. So, yeah, we went our ways. And Charlie was so right. Charlie was so right. I mean, it was Larry's biggest selling album. It just jumped to the top of the charts. And Larry's biggest song is the song off that album, Smiles and Smiles to Go, which is, played on an acoustic guitar. I think it's probably an electrified acoustic guitar, but I don't get into that. See all those other podcasts. You can go to them for that kind of talk. And so that's why it's funny that whatever I was talking about.